Everyone, Friday Night Live. How are you all doing? Thank you for stepping in. I don't know about your part of the country, but it is definitely hot here for us. Hello, Brian. How are you doing? Robin, good to see y'all. I have a special guest who's actually been a listener and wrote to me. And when he spoke to me about what he would like to talk about, I felt it was really relevant. And as you can see, the title for this show tonight is "We Eat to Stay Alive, but what we are eating is killing us." And Rob, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Fantastic.
Good to have you on.
Thank
So
you.
prior to us coming on, you and I were talking about, and you were discussing, telling me how, I guess the best way I'm going to put in layman's term for myself, how we got off course in what it is that we eat. And just to frame this, we all have to eat.
Right.
If we don't eat, we're not going to be around.
No.
And I was kind of meditating this afternoon on this subject that here we are, even when we try to eat organically, quote unquote,
Right.
vegetarian, quote unquote, that's no exemption. In fact, I read a study that vegetarians are absolutely absorbing more of these chemicals, whether it's grown hydroponically or whether it's grown outside. What people don't understand, if the water is not purified, the water is picking up the contaminants that we put
Right.
into it.
Right. Right.
So here we are at this conundrum. It looks like what we are eating is killing us. We know this, the lawsuits with Monsanto, the GMOs,
Yeah.
and then you take in even the religious aspect. When I was a practicing Christian, the Old Testament was replete on what diets should be. In fact, there was a bread company called Ezekiel 29.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's get into it. How did you begin to realize that, hey, there's something wrong here, and it goes back a ways?
Well, originally, I used to be a religious freak. I
Okay.
was, I
Been
evolved
there, done that. That's cool.
from a Jesus freak. I went to a Jesus freak, to a Jews for Jesus freak, and to a Messianic Jewish freak. And then I went to
Oh, you've gone the whole circuit.
I went from there to a deist, and then I went for a period. I was a radical atheist.
Well,
I was a radical atheist, and I went back. When the atheists make the mistake with the Bible, it's kind of like Jeff, Jeff Daugherty.
Yeah.
He's great with picking out what's true and what's not,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And kind of with him, I started thinking, wait a minute. Beginning verse in in those beginning chapters, it says that the plants was the food for the animals and humans. And I remember, because I knew it so well, I used to be able to quote scriptures like crazy. I knew what it said in Isaiah, and that I changed not. So I started thinking, whoa, wait a minute, you changed not, so who changed this? I started doing research and finding out, atheists just dump the Bible, period. You know what I mean? A lot of them just, it's all baloney, and we're not believing any of that. And I woke up, I said, no, I need more than that. I need to find out who changed this. So that's how I found out. It was from the tribe of Shalah.
Shalah? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Shalah.
Okay.
And that's called the Shalonite Jews. They were temple correctors, paid. They were paid to change the text. And that Rabbi Shmuel Asher, he's a Karaite Jew, And
And
I
is that
found,
Asher, A-S-H, like Asher the god?
right, the tribe of
Yeah,
Asher.
yeah.
Yeah, he's from that tribe. Yeah. And his family goes way back to that time. And he pointed out in his book, he shows exactly how they changed the text and how they were called paid temple correctors. Paid correctors, can you imagine that? They actually paid people and they
Yeah.
screwed with that text. So that's where all the killing came from. That's what turns off atheists, is seeing all those killings in the Bible.
Yeah.
Just from the verses alone, in totals, there's been over 4,200,000 people killed in that Yahweh name.
Mm-hmm.
In that, Jeff calls him the rat bastard, and that's a good description.
Well, I did a whole series on Baal. And
Right.
when you really get back down to it, you have the Yahweh, which is Yahweh. And there's clear evidence that Baalism was actually there before the Yahwist.
Right.
Well, this is very interesting. So let's get to the I love this, the temple changers. Is that what we call them?
Correctors.
Correctors. Okay.
Yeah.
That are paid. And, I always wonder, so who's paying to change history? So what did they change?
There's that verse in there that says how the scribes, remember there's a verse in there that points out how the scribes, mess with things.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where that verse is, but I know it's in there. I can't think of it right now where it's at.
Well, I know that the Christ said that, the scribes were nothing more than a den of snakes, and that, they pervert that which was written. And that's why I don't trust any document that we have access today, because what I discovered in my studies, Rob, and you can tell me what you have, was the fact that the ancients wrote in code. They did not write in plain, what we would call vernacular.
Right. See, you know what I hate about that, Wayne? I really despise that, because truth should be for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not, they had these secret societies back then and Christianity and everything like that. And I'm thinking, like, I understand they were protecting themselves from, they were considered heretics and they were going to kill them. I can understand why they did it, but in the time period when that ended, I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, there shouldn't be no secrets. Truth should be for everyone. And you want to get to the bottom of where's the truth in all of this?
What amazes me is here we are in the 21st century, and I see a world that has become under a spell that we are. Here's what I want to hear more about this, because there's secrets to the scriptures. I mean, it's a matter of what type of glasses you're wearing when you're reading it. But finish about my point is that we are in the 21st century, and we are wrestling generation after generation, interpretation after interpretation of documents that are 2.5 millennia old. And I'm going, what's the hell's wrong with us? Have we just lost our ever-loving minds? Because here's the problem, is that how in the world do I have anything in common with a person that was born 500 BC?
Right.
I mean, and yet you will see people kill each other, debate each other over something that I now sit back going, you people have lost your freaking minds.
Yeah, Wayne, I agree with you totally, because and that's the experience that I have. I live in a retirement community. And they're all religious nuts here, and they treat me like I'm a parasite. And it's almost like, so I almost live like a hermit here, because I'm cordial in the hallways if I meet them. Here's an example. I go to the mailbox to pick up my mail. And these two people saying, we think you're too skinny and you don't eat right. I'm just getting my mail. And I'm thinking, like, what does this have to do with the mail? I was trying to be nice, so I didn't say anything. But the one guy, I got him back. In the wintertime, I have a toboggan, you know.
Uh-huh.
One man sled, and plastic, And I went on the reservoir, and it's real close to where I live. And I went 17 times in a row without taking a break, climbing the hill. So I seen him within a week, and I told him, hey, you know what? I said, I'll challenge you. I said, I bet you can't make it up that hill one time without being out of breath. And then you can tell me who eats right. He didn't say a word to me after that. After me that. They see I'm a fast walker. In 2012, I qualified for the Senior Olympics in a 1,500 meter race and in race walking. I got a gold medal in the race walking, and never had race walking in my life. Race walking is like gymnastics.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that.
You can't have your leg bent when it's coming forward. So I'm concentrating so much. My son came to see me. I was in Cleveland. And my son came to see me, and he told me after it was over, he said, "Dad, you worked the hardest out there out of anybody there." I said, all that was on my mind was don't bend your leg. On the third time around, they actually have people sitting around the track, and they're watching. And they got me on the third time around with one lap to go, and it was disqualified. But that wasn't the 1,500 meter was my race. So I was still a Christian then, and I was in a prayer walk, and I had to be in the grass area, because of the 4 people in a row, in a line, and there was a bad hole, and I didn't see it, and I twisted my ankle really bad. I didn't break it, but you probably know with injuries, it's actually better to break something than to have a bad sprain. I mean, I sprained it badly. I could not work out for that year that I was supposed to be training for the Nationals and the Senior Olympics. I mean, Wayne, you were unbelievably. My son, when he was there, I wanted him to watch the 100-meter race in the 60 and 70-year-old, races. They were getting better times than high school kids did.
That kid is right.
Oh my goodness, he said, I couldn't believe this.
So is getting back kind of to the topic, Rob, on what we're dealing with here, because, and I think it's great. I think it shows that age does not have to play a role. But here's the problem with that, is that the fact is the baby boomers, we're now becoming the fastest group of retirees. And the inheritance of the majority of our generation's health problems can be directly attributed to by what we eat. Now, let me finish this out because we need to stay focused on the point as to why. So I don't like coming into a subject that you can't offer an alternative to, but in this subject, as I look at the generations coming up now behind the boomers, is that I see now a induction into a food system that the more you eat, the hungrier you get. And so now we're in this conundrum because we are literally eating ourselves to death. And then it has a domino effect, because if you're eating food that's not properly nourishing the body, you begin to get obesity, diabetes, you begin to get high blood pressure, you begin to see the advancement of cancers. We have in our food system today, no matter, even if you're a vegetarian, it's almost impossible to get away from, is the processed fructose sugars that are in our food system. So you got a book. You said that it was changed back then. What did they change?
Yeah, they changed the text. You know,
What was the text that they had changed?
Where he stated that, the plant food will be your meat. That thing, because I thought, how did it go from that to eating meat? That was the point that well, yeah, how did it go from that to eating meat? Who done this? And so when I got that book, that really opened my eyes. And so originally, I did it for religious reasons, because it said that in the Bible, And then later, I started doing more research and just saw the ethical side of it, and they well, wait a minute, killing an innocent animal for your taste buds, to me, just seemed ethically wrong, and then there's also ethics behind this. Now the natives, I know you know things about the natives. I'm a big native supporter and behind them. And they actually prayed and asked an animal, thinking.
It's very common in a lot of the Native Americans and the Inuits, even and it's something that we should. I was raised on a farm, and we raised rabbits, we had cows and chickens, and that's how our substance was, along with a very large garden. So, I realized at a very early age that there was one death to provide the food for a species, which is us. Right. Okay, I want to get back to the point. I recently read where vegetarians were trying to make the argument from an anthropological point of view that if you look at the teeth of Homo sapiens, that our teeth are really designed for chewing, which is more akin to being a herbivore, someone who eats herbs or plants.
Right.
Now, what they did not bring out in the rest of this article is that the evolution of humans, and we are evolving, that if you look at the modern cranial structure of what we call modern Homo sapiens sapiens, the incisors are the things that are changing. Why? Because we're eating flesh to get the protein that is lacking in the vegetable that we once got that from.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The thing remember I mentioned that Andy, A-N-D-I, Andy Force guy? It has in there the nutrient density per calories.
Oh, that's important. Nutrient density per calories. That I can pick up on.
Yeah, and so it's the aggregate nutrient density index. And it's free online. And so I seen in there, take kale, for example.
And I don't like it. You can have it, but
I put it in my smoothies.
Oh, man.
Kale, the highest score you can get is 1,000. Kale comes in at 1,000. Meat and dairy, you know where it's falling in the category in numbers? That's per serving. You would have to, in the 30s to 50 at most. Okay. And you would have to eat 4 ounces of meat. You would have to eat 300 servings of 4 ounces of meat to get the nutrients that are in one serving of kale. And when I show that to people, they don't know what to say. I said, it's all here. I said, I shop a lot at Aldi's. At Aldi's here. And I joked around with them because they knew I always bought kale. And then for a while, they weren't getting it in. And I laughed and I put 2 and 2 together. Said, oh, it's because of me. I've been telling people, how beneficial this nutrient for their bodies, to mix it in with your smoothie.
So how do you deal with, and that I think that's fabulous. I don't like the taste. So those of us have to find alternatives, and I'm sure they're out there. Is that, okay, so if we're growing this, for instance, outside, the earth, as I heard one scientist put it, it's virtually becoming sterilized. I mean, it doesn't have the mineral context, the complexity that it had 1,000 years ago.
You know, that's sad because they have messed so much with, that's with the natives. That's why I love them so much. They considered the land sacred. It wasn't something you sold to make a profit off them. It wasn't thy will be done and manifest destiny and we're going to take your land and screw you and it's ours now, you know, and everything since the Industrial Revolution has went downhill. I mean, they took a virtual, I tell people, I said, you realize it was a paradise before monotheism hit the scene. I said it was a virtual paradise. I said, and when that came in, I said they started taking land like crazy and taking everybody's land and native people's land and making money off of it and using it. You know, and palm oil, you know how they're cutting down so much in rainforests for that, you know, and it's like, and the people that live there, they know that, you know, Wayne, you're very intelligent. You know that a tree, everything's in an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
When you cut down a tree, they don't think anything of it. I call them the earth rapers.
By the way, I just want to make a little caveat, Rob, is you're talking about trees. I'm fortunate to live here in Colorado, and just right up the road from where I live is the single largest organism on Earth. And that is, it's a single organism, a group of aspen trees, and it covers many, many acres. The point is that it is a single organism, alive. And so when we talk about what we've done to the earth, you know, I read recently, there's a case right now being fought against Monsanto. There is a class action lawsuit taking place on the GMOs that Monsanto has been responsible for. And the claimants in this case are saying that because of the GMOs and that Monsanto knew about the health risk to humans by the exposure of what they've done in genetically altering the organism, is that it's sent forth a cascading system within the human genome, which is us. Right. Furthermore, it goes on to state that because of the alteration of the genetics of the food system, that now the entire food system is full of this. Even when you're buying food that says that it's non-GMO, no one has any way of validating it. By the way, it's a sales and marketing trick because there is no federal agency in the United States that actually verifies what is organic and what is not.
Yeah, that's sad.
No,
that is, you know, that Bayer bought them out, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Bought Monsanto out, yeah, Bayer. I call them the two evil twins now.
Well, you can't, and many farmers, because most people don't understand in America, is corporations have now bought up a majority of the farmland in the United States, that there are contracts that they can only buy genetically modified seeds. Now, this becomes a problem. Now you think about this in the United States, particularly those that live in the Midwest and heading up into the East, Southeast, and Northeast, is that through the saturation of decade after decade of spraying petrochemicals, which are either, number one, insect control and or fertilizers, we've basically saturated our natural ground. Are you ready for this? With oil.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, people don't get it. The love of oil has wrecked the entire earth. I mean, it's for the love of oil, the shale, the fracking is probably directly related to earthquakes. You can't mess with the ground like that and not expect some kind of reaction, you know, and they don't care. All they see is money.
And I wanted to say, you're right. I say in the comment room that, and now we've got the added problem with our sun. We now have UV radiation that is coming in that is damaging the cellular structure of the plants themselves. We have radical shifts in weather patterns. I read 2 days ago that up in Poland, they're in bad shape. I mean, it is a serious drought up there. We know about drought here in the Southwest. So how do we begin to correct this? Because, here's the thing. I'm 63. You're a little bit older than I am.
Yeah, I'm 63.
So we've had, when I was growing up, Rob, I don't know about you, but I grew up on a farm for a while, and I spent my summers from sunrise to sunset working in the garden pulling weeds. And my brother and I, when we got hungry, we would literally pull off, for instance, black-eyed peas, and we would eat and when I look back now, little did I know how much insurance I was buying for myself later in life.
Oh, yes.
You think about this. Now, how old are you?
65.
65. So
yeah.
we look at ourselves now, and I think it's wonderful that you can actually show the stamina. And I'm going to be doing a video that calls, "There's actually no reason why we should die or age." I didn't realize this, but because of the food that we're taking in, how it's genetically altering our DNA, that there's no reason for us to get old.
No, you're right.
What?
No, there isn't. That's a lie of, that's why I despise religion so much, because that's the lie of religion. It's like you can forget about taking care of the earth, you know what I mean? No matter what people call it, Mother Earth, whatever, the earth, forget about being a good steward of the earth, and because we're going to heaven. So who cares? We don't need.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
It's religious people are just they're not in the here and now. They're almost like in a fairy tale world. We have no. I love what you did on those Godspell videos.
Well, thank you.
I've sent them to a lot of people because it's a spell.
It is a spell.
In the same thing over and over and over again. And I pointed out I lost the marriage of 27 years over this, Wayne.
Okay.
27 years. I still love that woman. But she won't wake up to see that it's, they had a picnic here at the retirement community I live in. And somebody knew my knowledge, and I said something about in Isaiah. It says, and that there was no Savior beside me. And I'm thinking, like, oh, wait a minute, there's no Savior beside me. That thinks that Christianity right there. It's like, there's no Savior. And this woman said it was so simple. How sometimes the simplest things can be the most profound.
Very deep, yeah.
She said, well, of course, everybody knows that. She said he was a Hebrew. And I'm thinking like, oh my goodness.
There we go.
I think of that. He was a Hebrew. And there was no way somebody with a name like Jesus would have been able to touch a Pharisee's robe to eat. What I mean?
That just gets into that whole mind coins thing.
He would have never been able to do that.
So I kind of would point back on the earth when we were talking about this. I'm going to be doing another series, is the fact that I think we've missed something and we've interpreted as gods, but you hit onto the fact, I believe Earth is a sentient living species.
Yeah,
their species, their life forms are exactly what we see. We call them planets. And here's a thought that I'll let everyone in the chat room think about. I think that this sentient being is the one that has been responsible for all the so-called acts of God that have been recorded by our species, because we have not recognized that Earth is a living sentient being, doesn't want to be worshiped, doesn't want to have any of the adorations that we have put to our cultures. All this sentient being wants is respect. It will provide everything that we need. But I think what we've done is that we've, in fact, now have an enemy. And part of the changes that we're seeing is the result of this sentient being being pissed off.
I believe that, Wayne. I think it's a serious thing. You know it as well, I'm sure. You take humans off of this planet, the plants and the animals and the trees and the forests would go right on and continue on for millions and millions and millions of years.
Yes, they have been.
Unless an asteroid won't fall on the planet. But even then it would come back to life again.
Yeah, and that's what's amazing about this species.
You leave us on the planet, and I told somebody, and they didn't like it. They didn't say it.
That they did.
I could tell by their facial reaction. And I said, you know what? I said, the only people that should be allowed to live on this planet, I said, are nature lovers, and I said, and natives, indigenous people, and people who love those people. I said, the rest of them can get their own planet and leave. I said, and this earth would be a lot better off. I said, we would come back to paradise again. Joni Mitchell, remember that?
Yeah.
They took paradise and they put up a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, look at this earth. I said, little did she realize that many years ago when she wrote it, how worse it would get.
I was at a concert with Joni Mitchell. It was
I said, now all we have is concrete and asphalt jungles.
And therein lies the whole point. This asphalt is a byproduct again of oil. And here's the other thing. So for the last, and I think we could say probably going back to when plastic was introduced into the distribution system, today the potential carcinogens that we now package our food into these plastics that leach into the food systems of which we now consume. So here's the dilemma that I see that we're in. That obesity of the generations coming up behind us is off the chart. And the unfortunate thing is that, it's a matter of how much wealth you have, how much money you have, that determines for many people in the inner cities as to what they eat. I had one person tell me today, I was talking to them, and they said, well, you've got to take consideration, Wayne, that there are literally tens of millions of people that the only access to food they get is through processed food.
Oh, yes.
So, because I'm trying to say, well, what's our alternative here? How do we come in?
Right? Soup kitchens. All that is crappy food. There's not any nutritional value in that. And instead of giving people, I hear this all the time, Wayne, and I tell them I'm living on low income. Here's what happened. And not only with the divorce or losing a marriage of 27 years, but I read Aaron Schiff's book on the federal mafia, on the tax. Federal tax is not in the books. It's illegal. And it's not on record anywhere. I read that book. There's proof in there. He's got stuff underlined in there. And he's the one that wrote that book. And it's a PDF. You can get it free online. And he exposed the federal government. I mean, because when I found, I've heard you talk about math. I was a dunce in math, but they called me, they labeled me when I was working security. I worked 27 years of security at P&G in Lima, and they labeled me, they called me Radical Ron. And I knew enough about math to know that radical just simply means getting to the root. You get to the root. And when you get to the root of anything, you find the lies of everything. That every time you get to the root of something, you find that's another lie. They told me that I know that ain't true anymore.
I think all of us can say that in fact, it's about most people don't trust the government. I was just reading someone in here. I was not aware that farmer markets accept food stamp. I want to check into that because if they do, I think that's a great alternative. And what I'd like to state, Rob, in this is that so you seem to be at 65, below what I would call a BMI index that would be considered probably 0 or 1. I'm just assuming. Do you have issues, and this may be personal, but anything with high blood pressure, diabetes, of anything like that?
No, nothing. No medication.
Okay. All right, good.
I donate, and actually, that's how I was involved in a romance scam out of Nigeria, and I lost about $2,200 out of that. Being on low income, it hit me bad, and I'm just recovering a little bit. And so, I only get $9.79 a month. I'm a person of principle, and when I found out the federal tax was a lie, I knew what they did to the natives. I knew what they did to the black people on this land. And I said, any country that does that deserves no allegiance. As far as I'm concerned, it deserves no allegiance because what you did to those people groups is totally uncalled for and morally wrong. And if you think I'm going to support, I was a patriotic nut, you know what I mean? And now I'm the exact opposite. Well, and they know it, you know what I mean? People used to say, aren't you afraid of what you're writing on your blogs? That they're going to come and get you? And I said, they know I'm a pacifist.
Yeah. Rob, I appreciate, I think,
my mouth.
Yeah, Rob, I appreciate that, but I think we're getting off track. I mean, I'd like to stay focused in on this because this is a serious issue. And people, I think, are looking for alternative ways. Now, you have a limited income, so you apparently buy mostly, I guess, vegetables, right?
Right, and organic as much as I can.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And as my main things I buy are organic. My little dog, see, I did research on that, and like I mentioned to you before I went, I did a lot of research on it. It's a vegan dog book. And the oldest dog raises a puppy with no meat, lived to be 27 years old. I mean, like 27 years old, there ain't no meat-eating dog that lived to be 27.
Okay, so
everything I seen, was just adding up to, how I was eating. And let me tell you about a friend of mine. She's a vegan. Her mom had to have an artery, that was blocked. And not even a year later, that same artery was blocked over 60%.
Mm-hmm.
It was because of my knowledge, we helped each other out, but she realized what was going on. And his name's Dr. Esselton. He's from the Cleveland Clinic. He used to be a dairy farmer and big in the dairy industry.
Mm-hmm.
When he found out what was in meat and dairy, he wanted to shut him down. He was so mad. Well, she knew him personally. She got her
Is he saying there's a correlation between dairy and coronary artery disease?
Right. Yeah. So she went to see him, and he told her. He said, "Honey," he said, "here's what I want you to do." He said, "I want you to, you can't just go off of the cold turkey. You got to wean yourself off of it." And so he said, after that, he said, no meat, no dairy, no oils, and no sugar. And she listened to him. She lost weight. You wouldn't believe how she looked.
Oh, I know she would lose weight.
And that different person. She's got energy galore, and she looks like a different person. And I mean, like, oh my goodness, here's another. I can learn to respect people. I learned, not through emono. With water, speaking love and gratitude, we're over 70% water. So I speak love and gratitude over everybody. You know what I mean? Over
Now,
everything.
this person that you were talking about that had gone to the doctor, how old was she?
Esselton. Yeah, Esselton.
No, no, I mean the patient, the woman you were talking about. Is she a senior
Yeah, that was
citizen?
her mom. The one that was a vegan, my vegan friend, that was
Yeah.
her mom.
Okay, so
Mom.
I like to stay focused on that then for a second here, because
Okay.
again, part of the purpose, what I was envisioning for this show tonight was obviously this is something that all of us are aware of. And that if we could bring out examples of how people can begin to, for instance, cut out sugar in their diets, begin to cut out, I'm not so, and I'll just be candid with you. I am not a person who thinks that all people should be cutting out meat. I just got to tell you, I
know.
um,
I respect.
yeah, I
I'm
think
not.
that there are some people that protein is a vital part of what keeps us the way we are, and I think, yeah.
Right.
But
Well, you
I
got to
think,
know where your protein's coming from.
yeah,
Because, see, I mentioned to you that I donate plasma in BioLife, and you get $70 a week. You know what I mean? That keeps me afloat. And before, when I was a meat eater, they take a test. They call it a SPEA, SPAEA, and they send it to Alabama, the headquarters, and it's very detailed. So when I was eating meat, it would be a good thing if I passed 2 of those in a row. I've went 18 months now with passing 5 in a row. It never happened because I told them they're listening, and I said I don't have that fat in my blood anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, that's
Anything that I stir fry, I just use water in there. A cup of water, and you can stir fry anything in a cup of water, and then maybe add a quarter of a cup, a little bit more, depending on how much you want to stir fry. And so there's no, you know what I mean? I see that's where vegans and vegetarians mess up. There's junk food vegans and junk food vegetarians, and they get
yeah, yeah.
and they
I
don't
think,
realize that that you're not eating right. You're eating way too much oil and you're eating way too much sugar, and it's messing up your body. And they don't make the connection. They don't realize. And when we talked about the money, and I said, well, think about this. I said, I don't drink sodas. I said, you realize how much money people spend on coffee? And so I don't drink coffee. You realize how much money they called me the Energizer Bunny at work. Yeah, I got so much energy. And
I think that this is the point.
So I save money on that.
When I start,
so that's how I can buy organic.
good, and I think I don't know what the answer is. I know this, that I've done a video on this subject, that those that are now being born, they stand virtually 100% that they will become diabetic, most likely adolescent diabetes, that they stand to be the one of the beginning generations that will be over obese. And we're seeing this. And when I look at this situation, I see it as multidimensional, because we have to eat. Right. Otherwise we're not here. But that which we are eating is in fact damaging us. And then that begins to have a strain into the healthcare. I mean, I know a lot of people that are suffering, diabetes, high blood pressure, all sorts of other issues with thyroid. The list just goes on and on. So what we do as a society is that we say, well, here, take this pill, because this will begin to counter what we're feeding you to begin with. Now, it impacts us as we begin to look at this as we age, because as you have shown, many senior citizens are on a very limited, strict budget. There's a lot of people who are even younger. They don't have to be senior citizens that face the same thing.
Right.
So most people, when they hear something like this, they're in total agreement. But what they're saying is, so what is the alternative? And that's what I think that we as a society need to begin to address. And I'll bring other guests on here that we can begin to look at. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is a person who is that's what he's trying to educate people on: alternative gardening. Otherwise, he said, as him and I have talked, we're not going to be around.
No. Well, even Wayne, you mentioned it. Even with what's in the air, cabin talk. That site where Claudia, cabin talk. She points it out that we're going to have to start learning to grow in our apartments.
Yeah, and
you can't. Same way with hydroponically.
Yeah.
There's no way that can get to. We have no idea what's in the air anymore.
No.
Like you said, with the UVBs off the chart, and it's like, and these people are laying out for hours and hours in the sun, and they're like, you don't even know what's getting in your body. You know what I mean? They don't study anything. They don't research anything. They don't know what's going on with the climate, what's going on with the food, and they just,
I marvel.
That person that you talked to, that when you were going to have that Sentient, conference next year, where he told you about the main thing is survival. And that, I agree with that totally. And that's why people they're almost brain dead, because all they have on their mind is survival.
Well,
and they can the religious people, I don't know why they're interested in survival, because they want to get to heaven so bad. It's like, why are you interested in survival? You want to get to heaven so bad, go.
Well, I just did a video.
All the religious fanatics like I used to be, it would be great if somebody would rapture them off this earth and get them out of our sight. I know.
Well, remember now, Rob, now they can have the reverse view. I think what we have to really do is come into a place and realize that we're all sapiens.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not, I don't wish anyone off the planet. What I wish is that we would begin to comprehend that which we already are, and we have a problem with that. Listen, as we get to wrap this up, here's the thing that I look at is that, I don't know how we escape this. I really don't. It's like they've truly have gotten us painted into the corner, and I'm a pretty rational guy. I look at things you had mentioned, and Dr. Miller has brought this up, is that we're going to have to look at agriculture in a completely different way. And that's going to be the question, if we can actually survive it. Henry Kissinger, I was at a conference that he was at, and I'll never forget this, what he said. He said, the future superpowers will be the nation that controls the food.
Oh, yeah.
And when you begin to look at the food that we eat today, is that, number one, it's addictive. Number two, it has virtually no calories. I never realized before that the fact that you could eat food, have with a full stomach, but because of the alteration of the genetic makeup of the food, you're going to be hungry again.
Oh, yeah.
And so this becomes a problem. And I'm going to look at particularly, what I really enjoy about Warrior Princess. We're going to have her back on. It was what she does with the food bank.
Oh, yeah.
When I think about the people, the light workers that are out there, that are going out there making this effort, and I'm thinking, well, what can we do? We raised a good amount of money for her. I think we're going to do it again. This community did a great thing, but it's buying healthy food. And that is the difference.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know there's some way, maybe it doesn't sound like it, but I am an optimist. And I still think, I when I walk by, I got a little dog, she's a Maltese. She's a cute little dog, and she's when I walk her in the morning, there's another dog the same age across from me, my apartment, and that dog could hardly move. And the guy told me he thought that his dog was older than mine. So I'm wrong, they're in the same age. I said,
Yeah.
you see the difference between your dog and my dog? I said, my dog's a vegan athlete. I said, and yours can't have a heart problem, even walking and jumping up on, with everything, Lee. I used to have running, I did, track for a lot of part of my life. And I had back pain and knee pain from running. When I went and changed my diet, no more knee pain, no more back pain. Then I found out that it leaches calcium out of your body.
And that's part of the problem.
And the things that are made, the vegetables, say like celery, the way it's shaped, that's great for your bones. You know what I mean? That shows it for your bones.
But the only problem with it, with all of these foods that we're talking about, celery is loaded with chemicals. When I did a study on this, when I did a study on, I did a study on this, and they actually took vegetables from various grocery stores and began to break down the chemicals inside of them. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so I wanted to say in here, I saw that one, I think it was JR who said that, it was JR that said protein, eggs. And, I'm a big eater of eggs. And again, it's right into this whole cycle, when I lived down in Texas, out in the Texas and particularly the Gulf Plains, they have these huge chicken farms. And I mean, it got me to where I didn't want to eat chicken anymore unless I knew where it was raised, because it was just inhumane the way that they did this. But then I think about, we've known about this. I mean, Charleston Heston on the Omega Man, Soylent Green, is the fact that, and I'll leave the thought is here as we end the evening on this one. So Soylent Green was about people eating people. But as someone well pointed out, the fact is that's what we do all the time. And the thing about it is 100 years from now, there's going to be people who are going to be eating us.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it's a scary thought, but it's like...
well, Ron, thank you for being on. It's a delight. Appreciate watching.
I love everybody. I used to just segregate people in religion. You know what I mean? That's the thing I despise about it, because it separates and divides people.
Yeah.
And Christians have the hardest time understanding that. It's like, how can you not see that this is a separatist religion the same way that Judaism is? Judaism is a separatist religion. And I like what you said, Wayne. Yeah, I seen in one of your videos that you don't like any of the gods of this earth.
No, I don't. So,
I need some proof. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, if you're really real, why can't you show yourself to everybody and tell everybody the same thing?
No,
you know what I mean? So there'd be no differences. Everybody knew the same thing. I want you to love everybody and treat the earth with respect.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And how hard would that be? You know what I mean? If everybody would do that, then nobody is your enemy. You're all brothers and sisters. And in our atoms and molecules, we're 99.99% alike. And it's like, so why can't you act humanely? An native leader pointed this out. And he said, beyond our skin color, anything, your culture, anything, whether you're Indian, African, or Chinese, anything, he said, we're human beings. He said, we need to start looking at each other as human beings and not separating and dividing people up. That's what the elitists want us to do. They divide and conquer. And they're doing a good job of it.
Well, the first thing we do is stop labeling people. And that's the first thing that we begin to do, is realize that we are all sapiens, and we come in many different flavors, many different shapes and sizes. But what it is, as you just said, all of us bleed red. So that's the best way. Well, thank you so much. I have appreciated this, Ron. This has been fun. Everyone, keep yourself safe this weekend. If you're living to the east, folks, it's going to get warm. We're sending you a little present.
It's really bad. I don't even. I see. Usually, I go on at a local lake. You know what I mean? I either ride my bike with my little doggy there, or let me wait before you go off. I'll show everybody my little doggy. You ever see her? I'll keep you.
Well, we have to make it quick. Right. Well, at least he's wearing pants, so that is a good thing. Yeah, by the way, let's see here.
This is my baby.
Well, now there's a cutie. Hey, little. Hey, fella. Hello, pretty boy. Oh, it's a pretty puppy.
Sweetheart. Yeah, you know what I mean? If people would be like our dogs, it would be a perfect world. They don't judge us. They don't condemn us. They don't avoid us. They forgive us. Yeah. And it's like, I told somebody, I said, I'd rather live with animals than most humans on this planet.
They probably look at us the same way.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I love the community, and that, but the people that are just so segregated in their mind and separatists, it's like, oh my goodness, you need to wake up quick.
It's as Dr. Ram says, if you can think it, then it's going to be, so don't think it. All right. Well, everyone, have yourself a good evening. Rod, thank you again for joining us. And we'll probably see y'all definitely on Sunday with Jeff Jordy over there. Right. And then Monday night with Dr. Alpers. We're going to be talking about the study that I put forth. I think it's going to be interesting. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, love you, bro.
All right. Namaste to everyone. Thank you all.
Namaste.
Okay. Bye-bye.